I'm gonna also share a Miro board.
Nice.
And I'm gonna share the screen.
Welcome to Driving Catalyst Racing with Swarm. This is the CA process discussion happening now.
So in front of me, what you see are basically two main links. One for the IoG document, what he put together from the feedback we gave in from the community on what they internally was thinking, how could they improve the upcoming Fund 8. And below there is the Miro board where I have been collecting the information and discussion notes. Today we're gonna have this discussion in here. I will take some notes, but if the session ends, I will copy paste that information back in the main board too. And just before we started recording, we had a nice little chit chat, and then there was a discussion coming up. Where did the corruption came from to the Catalyst ecosystem? And the kind of corruption I was talking about in like a metaphor is that in this round, there was a lot of community advisors who copy pasted or created some kind of like a tool for themselves to switch words in a template and then apply that information to the proposals as an assessment. But there is like two main problems is that a lot of these assessors didn't really go into the proposals, as what they copy pasted as an assessment was more wasn't aligned with the proposal. So you could read something like, this proposal is missing budget breakdown, and then you open the link, you read the proposals, and it was totally fine. Like there could maybe roadmap was missing, but like these like facts were wrong. And then you kind of went through many of these from the same assessor to see how much he does it. And when to me as a VCA, I was like, if you 3 times hit like a bare fact that you can't really, which is clearly there in a proposal, then I just filtered out all these assessors, and maybe they did like 200 assessments, but based on 3 mistakes, I filtered out all. And also I looked into people who use like copy pasting techniques or these kinds of tools. Am I right of doing so? Maybe they did try, and they just was so overwhelmed by the thousands of proposals, and just were thinking, okay, I have to go and help everybody. So I devised this tool and spend like 1-2 minutes reading. To me, this is not the intention I would want to see. So therefore, I kind of raised that up, and also other veteran community advisors saw that as an issue. And then we came together, we talked about it. I think with most of us, we kind of aligned that there should be some other process or something to be done with that. And through several discussions, like, okay, what could be done and to prevent these kinds of things, or how could we funnel these kinds of behaviors differently. There is a document now, which I'm going to show. And when we start with the document, you can read that why it wasn't made, and they kind of explained that it was made for like community Catalyst team collaboration, and also to bring us up to speed what Catalyst team is thinking. And in this session, I would want to go through this what the objectives, what they bring and what we bring, and just have our own thought on that, on our like a feedback assessment. So I'm gonna just copy paste this information out. First line: reputation, MVP, minimum viable product, VCA selection and punishment. So in this situation, as I got it, they want to start giving out like reputation. I think it's going to be like centralized, so they're just gonna give a database, like nothing on blockchain, which would be more epic. But this is what I kind of get the gist of that these people who got a lot of good assessments and VCAs liked it, they're gonna just up the score, like they didn't go details how and stuff. And so in that sense of what would you expect from reputation minimum viable product, and what are the parameters we could use as to measure how much reputation somebody gets for some? And maybe we've also this can think about like pitfalls, what some metrics could bring up. Because as you know, if somebody gets from VCA that, yes, this is excellent, it might be not right. It might be that the VCA also is unclear about what it's doing. So so these are the like main points I would like to bring out and have some like an ideation or what you guys think about reputation and what should be applied to, like, how do we get that? So first thing what comes to my mind is that I think the VCA excellent, good, and these metrics are good to have, but and hopefully, like now that my question is, if we use these, let's say excellent gives 3 points, let's just think about points, and do we want this to be an average of excellence? So if right now there was this rule that if 50% of veteran community advisors give excellent over the other stuff, then this assessment is valid as excellent. And if it's 50% filtered out, then it's filtered out. And if it's something between or good gets, then it's just good. And what we saw there, at least what I saw there, is that when proposer flagged that this assessment is correct, then most of the VCAs filtered out the entire proposal, even though it didn't, like not the entire assessment, even though that assessment was actually assessment, but just negative, and proposer didn't agree with that. So in this situation, there was, you could clearly see that these VCAs weren't that good. I mean, in my opinion, that to give that information, but in order to figure out who is good and who is just this didn't also agree with proposer. So do we want to go in such a detail? And if we do, like, how, I think, should we start with ranking or giving points to VCAs first and then move to CAs, or like which direction we want to start the process of giving people reputation? It's just changed my question on the way when I was thinking. So not a good thing.
It's a fluid process, huh? It seems like since VCAs are veteran community advisors, it would make sense to build the reputation from the last say to the first say, you know, if because since they have an option to be able to remove these assessments, even these flagged assessments, and they have more power, let's say, to do that. Therefore, they require more accountability. Anyway, Ahoran, you had a hand up.
Yeah, you just said what I wanted to say. The VCA has much more power than the CA, because CA you can change their assessment, but VCA, you get the result only just before the voting. So they do have a lot more power than, I think also the reputation for them, it should begin from them, from the VCA.
Okay, So let's start from the VCAs, and I was about to just finish it. So what I try to do here is, and also to use the same point metrics as CA. So let's say we give 3 points to the VCA and he's like a majority voting. So when 50% of people vote for excellent, and you also were voting for excellent, then you get points. But now this can be quite gamed, but let's just have a starting point and then start bending the rules. The second one is like you get 2 points for when you say good, but majority says excellence, then you still get like 2 points because you weren't like very, very off. But if somebody says excellent and you were filtering out, then you get 0 points. So starting from here, you already kind of know the issues and what could this bring, but how do we then, what could be the rule or the thing we could follow in order to skew and filter out the fact that VCAs could just group together and just decide as a group instead of individual?
Yeah, this will be only my opinion. So yeah, maybe it will be good or bad.
That's all we got, man. Let's hear it.
Yeah. Actually, I think that the main issue with these CAs and VCAs is because you don't know who are these people. You know, everybody can approach to CAs. If I can manage that, I will do this in different way. I will say, okay, we have 3 workshops, and everybody who approached to these 3 workshops, who finished these 3 workshops, he will be CA. And you know who is this guy. You know the people. So nobody can come with bad intentions and you know, sign in for CA and do copy paste things. You know? Because you know, okay, 20 people approached to workshop. A workshop was in 3 times or 2 times, I don't know, 5 times, and everybody who finished this workshop, he's CA, and he can do the job.
Okay, so you're talking about CAs, not veteran community advisors, or
No,
both, or
with
workshop for both.
It can be also, I mean, VCAs, I think that these guys is much longer, you know, in this in this job than CAs. Everybody can be CAs, okay, but you know, people with bad intention, they will approach to CAs to make corruption, to, you know, doing that just for money and do quick, lots of money and so on. But I think with this approach, nobody can come with bad intentions. And you will
VCA
know.
should be, just to say another word, VCA maybe should be whitelisted, if I understand it right.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, maybe maybe they can also exist so-called workshops for VCAs. I mean, maybe some people will VCAs 10 times, you know, but you know who is this guy, who is VCAs, you know the group, you know that these people is like a team, you know. Nobody can come like from outside and do bad things.
Yes, Andre?
Maybe if you use this system where you look if your VCA vote is in the same group as the majority, then you can maybe look if the majority voted the same as, say, a few champion VCAs, like people that you know voted correctly. Or yeah, VCAs have high reputation.
Yes, Nora?
I just wanted to mention that my understanding is the role of the CAs and VCAs is to rate the quality of proposals, not to say whether the idea itself is good or bad. And so when I see things here as you're voting as the majority, the people who vote are voting on whether the idea is good or bad, not whether the proposal is well written, succinct, has a timeline and all this other stuff. They're going to mostly vote for things that they believe will further the ecosystem, or is an idea they like, or is a person they like, or whatever it is. So tying those two together it doesn't feel right to me, because the CAs, VCAs their job is different from the voter. There may be a little bit of overlap, but if we confuse the two, then we may go the wrong way. So I just wanted to bring that up. Just
to go in, and when I was thinking about voting, I was actually meaning VCAs looking at the CA assessments and deciding on excellent, good, or maybe the voting was a bad name.
Of scoring or something like that. Okay, got it.
Sorry, Nori, keep going. I have a question though, so I can put my hand up. Go ahead.
And just as a higher level thing, at the Pacific Town Hall, there was a lot of conversation from a couple of individuals around the CA process. And one guy from Sri Lanka spent a lot of time apparently going through and trying to do his best on as many proposals as possible to add value to the system. And that was his goal. And a lot of his things got filtered out. And he was really upset with the process. And his argument was the VCAs don't even read his assessments because they're like 4 pages long and super detailed, and nobody wants to read that, is what his feeling. And because of that, it got cut out or something like that. So I'm wondering if we're hearing all the voices and giving people the right opportunity, especially from the Eastern Hemisphere. Just a question of mine.
Yes, in previous sessions, just to answer that, I have also raised the concern that when I went through these like CAs that were appointed by other VCAs saying that, hey, they are using copy paste, I didn't actually, or like some template or what seemed long and like that, because you kind of need some kind of template if you want to go through as many as possible, and you have to really go into this into the CAs as like decisions or like assessments in order to see, yes, you're using copy paste templates, but if you are addressing the proposal, then you're still doing good, because you could see that a lot of proposals needed help, that basic help, and these templates provided that, hey, have you checked this, and have you answered this question? You could do this, and you could, but these were like questions you could ask from anybody who was missing that kind of information. And you kind of, as a CA, what you kind of start to do, I have been CA previously, sometimes you have this clear idea, oh, if these kinds of proposals would have this kind of information, it would be so much better. And then you kind of browse through many of proposals and, okay, I see similarities in many of these, and then you put it. So yeah, unfortunately, this time there is like an issue in a sense that I think there are a lot of VCAs have gotten their role without understanding their impact on the people and the catalyst process.
Yeah, and this particular person I know did use templates and had big spreadsheets and made it a process. And they like kind of how Swarm communities use that word template to make our proposals, and they all look kind of similar because they have the same section headings and everything, but it's because it works and it's a good thing, but the content is unique per proposal. And I think this is what that person did, but I have a feeling, I haven't seen their proposals, but they claim that they got filtered out because they were using a process rather than being organic with each thing that they did. But yeah, I'll pass on. There's hands up.
Aaron, you are up next.
Yeah, two things I want to say. First, VCA assessment, I first understand it, I was wrong, that filtering out assessment was extreme measure in case of real misuse of the assessment process. I thought that only if really it's a copy paste, it's a bot, or it doesn't have any rationale at all, it's been filtered out. And then I understand that there is no neutral assessment, there is no neutral review on assessment. It is either good or excellent, or it is filtered out. And it makes many assessments that maybe weren't entitled the good review, but they were honest and from real persons that really put effort, but there was no other way to grade it, to review it, other than good or filtered out. This causes the case that Nori told about, and also for me personally, it caused the proposal at the time part of to be downgraded a few positions. This is one thing. The other thing that I wanted to maybe to suggest that maybe we can implement a data research on the results of every assessment phase and QA phase in order to identify specific patterns that may indicate a bias or groups that work together. I can tell you that after I saw the result of the VCA, I thought that I thought that maybe there was something biased against me, and then I said with a friend that he is a data scientist and implemented some very known methods on the specific data, something that is very, it was accessible because all of the data is open and accessible, and we haven't found any specific patterns. So now I feel more confident and more trustworthy into the process, but maybe we can do it as part of the process. We can create it, and this friend and I, maybe we are thinking about maybe even proposed for the next fund, something like this. So it can complement the process from a big data point of view in order to identify patterns that can indicate biased groups in the VCA or the VCA.
Okay. Well, the second topic, I think it's quite the challenge, and I think that requires a totally different meeting or the work group to go through these details. But yeah, thanks for pointing it out. It's recorded and it's out there.
Idea.
Peter?
Yeah, I guess, so are we discussing, like, as far as this rating scale is, are the VCAs, how many VCAs are going through, like, can you see how each VCA has rated a proposal and then see how the consensus, and we're giving them points based off of the average essentially of what they all think, and then if you're above or below, you get you are likely to be
This was the first idea what I put it down here, but I will color them white. That is not important anymore, because I think what Andre brought out then, and together with somebody who mentioned whitelisting, I think it was Chris, and it's probably much more accurate if we like select few VCAs, so we don't have to look at the entire list. But we see, we know that VCA, he's doing these assessments, we come to cope as a group, and all can agree that yes, this VCA put an excellent on this assessment, and it is quite good assessment. It put good on this assessment because it's quite good assessment. It filtered out this assessment because, okay, fine, it could be filtered out. Now the question is, yeah, okay, maybe we want to have a fourth option as like good enough or honest. And anyway, so I think selecting like the hero VCA and then measuring all or selecting like 10 hero VCAs, aggregating their like average of how they filter the VCA, like as excellent, good, or filtered out, And these are like base metrics where now all the rest of the 100 VCAs, if they match with that, they get 3 points. If they are deviating, they get 1 or 2 points. And if you don't, like you deviate totally differently, just vice versa, you get 0 points. Which means we don't introduce negativity here. So that's just one game plan. So what happens then is over time, you will realize who are the hero VCAs pretty much. And based on that, if this helps us to trust the VCAs, then we can now start adding reputation to CEAs and say that, yeah, if you got excellent, you kind of got excellent. Probably there has to be some deterioration rate or some logarithmic like pressure, so that in 1 year, everybody who's a new VCA is like kind of ignored and the new CA is ignored because he's just too new, and always have this some kind of logical barrier that you're never 100% too sure, but statistically we can tell who has the intention and the skill and knowledge to push the Catalyst proposal assessment to the next level. Any more ideas, or this we could conclude that reputation part is like, it's great if IOG does something like that or whatever they have in mind. Okay. Next topic, CA VCA activity database MVP. So yeah, I guess in that sense, they just kind of keep track of that, or who is getting this scoring, and have one central database where we could maybe pull information. That would be great if they could do that. And that's my only hope, that this is what they meant by that, that we have a resource where we could use like APIs or get some kind of continuous data. Automatically filter suspicious activity, similarity assessment, and exclusion threshold. So here, as I understand, if it's put under IO commitments, then I guess it says centralized product or something where they put their own logic how they remove this before they add it to the assessors. So now it's where I was suggesting in previous that the assessors have just a different stage as an observe stage, what we use right now to do that. But maybe it's better that we trust the central authority. I don't know, what's your thoughts on that? For now, is it good, or we should already start like bottom up to filter out suspicious activity? Like, seems like nobody cares to. I guess we trust IAG enough to filter out the suspicious activity as long it's transparent and they show what they filtered out. So if they don't want to do that work, great.
Yeah, it's above my pay grade, man. I wouldn't know where to start to do that.
Cool.
Tevo, I just want to mention that I do think that outliers might be important to take note of, because even some of these CAs and VCAs that are maybe going against the grain might still be great assessments and points to look at. Just to point off the last piece. And yeah, I don't mind if IOG centralizes this part, in my opinion, because as long as it's transparent.
If I can address the suggestion that IOG will automate the filtering, I think it can be problematic. If some proposers will feel that they will get harmed because of this kind of a process, it can harm the trust in the whole Catalyst project. The fact that for now IO still have a lot of power, influence power on the system, and it's still mostly centralized. if IO will create this, even if it will be completely fair and completely right, the concerns that I wish to raise, it's not about the process itself, but how it can affect the trust of the community in the system. So if it will come to fruition, it should be really the most transparent way it can be, and maybe even, I don't know exactly how it can work, but maybe only as a recommendation, maybe some kind of automations that will flag suspicious activity, but won't filter it out without some kind of consent from some part of the community.
This means that the community has to be able to input their own process, like their functions into the process. So when somebody from AI or Singularity Net figure out a good algorithm, what could also be used, we could then, as a community, decide, okay, let's try that out and maybe improve. So it's not only run by IOG, but also other figureheads and stakeholders could also change the process a bit, like what is being automatically fit to that.
Yeah, I think the recommendation part of it to be like Aaron said on the side, like it's good information to have and to have created, but if it automatically has influence without some current, like a VCA or someone being able to have influence on that data, that's where the trust would get messed up. So it's the recommendation. I feel like that was Aaron's point. That could be as a recommendation. Yeah.
The final step from IOG commitments for Fund 8, a non-technical presentation of existing incentives and justifications. Okay, so I guess in a town hall or somewhere they will come out with a presentation where they show what has been, why something is as it is right now, because I guess what we did get was like, oh, this bonus mechanism and why, and one courage message was basically that IOG has a research and that we put a lot of thought into it and this is what it is, but there wasn't really like a white paper or a feedback. And if they want to share that research and analysis, I think it's great for the community to also learn where these kinds of rules are coming from. Okay, great. This means we have covered all.
Now that we're through the CA and VCA process, has there been a retrospective? I might have just missed it, but I know we had one last time. Because there are a lot of conversations happening, and it's almost like Goodwin's law, but for Catalyst is any conversation, if you go long enough, it'll become a CA VCA conversation. So I think there are people out there that want to talk about it. There are proposers that are frustrated that I heard just recently this week, because we were talking about governance, and CAs themselves are frustrated. So like Aaron was saying, I think the people are losing trust in the system, and it seems they feel that some things just are either arbitrary or not appealable. And I know we need to move fast and things are kind of messy, but I think there are voices out there that I don't know if they've been heard yet. So maybe an open retrospective across the community might be a helpful thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't know that there are any like retrospectives started, any of them. So I guess maybe we're waiting for the voting end before that. So it kinda is, like you mentioned, is a retrospective because like last 3 weeks just continuously coming up like, hey, let's get to the goal, let's talk about what's going on, and that's kind of retrospective, but I have always put in like a workshop spin on top of that. So maybe it doesn't really help to sit that information or still that information, and more goes towards like, okay, what is the solution? What's the next step?
Yeah, the retros need to have some kind of action items or conversations to move it forward and make things better. Otherwise, it's just a complaining session. But it's also an opportunity to talk about what went well, so we know what to double down on or make stronger next time. So I think having a a real good retrospective process where people have an opportunity to talk about what went well, what didn't, and then have a conversation of how we can either make it better or keep doing the things that we're doing well, and have a process around it rather than just a conversation.
Okay, yep. It's definitely needed. And you're right. I don't remember that too many people gone like, hey, this went well. Everybody's like complaining. Okay, moving to the next step. Input output stretch goals in Fund 8. Idea scale enchantments, structured fields, and embedded guidance. So basically, structure fields. I don't know what that means. And embedded guidance. I think this has been like a long-term thing, and embedded guidance. If I at the very beginning, when we had this field, we didn't have next to proposal creation of how do you create the proposal itself, and you had to like find a different place on community links or downholes to find how do you make that proposal. And in the idea scale itself, it was just, what is your problem? What is your solution? And that was it. And so it's nice that the CA process is able to get some embedded guidance too, and next to the stars, or else it's also like ad hoc from somewhere else. And I think this might lose also some the newest persons who come in here. They know the dates, they understand, okay, in this date I have to be here. They do the registration, they come, and then they realize, oh no, there is not all the information at some point, and then I have to go out somewhere. But some people might just start because they have their own knowledge of, okay, how impact. Okay, I'm just gonna talk about that. It's ask me rational, I'm just gonna write it, but it might not be the rationale we were waiting for. Anyway, so, and structural fields, I'm not sure what they mean about that. I hope it's somewhat related with the formatting, because this has been always a weird thing in idea scale, where you press an enter or put dots, then it just kind of formats it in different, puts two different sentences like top of each other, and or like side to side each other, and you're just confused every time you press save button in idea scale. Display assessment ranking in voting app. I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's good. That's an extra information. Right now, it might not be that perfect, but it's still, I think, very good like measurement to add to the voters, so they have some kind of direction or guidance.
Yeah, and I think it adds a layer of complexity, because then you have another ranking for people to more, that's brought to the visualization of the community more strongly. So that's good for telling people that it exists and that VCAs are doing those things, but it also, I mean, yeah, puts it in the forefront, so there's more scrutiny on that process, which is good, but yeah, not everything at once sometimes. But those are my thoughts on that.
I just want to jump back to the embedded guidance. I think that would be a really great thing. Like the way I read that is, like, a lot of the Swarm communities use that word template, and it would be great to just go through and embed best practices so that everyone has the same chance to create a really good proposal, to say, hey, did you address impact? Did you address feasibility? Did you address all these things? Do you have a budget that's broken out in detail? Do you have a timeline and a roadmap? And just kind of walk them through, because right now that feels just a big blank space. And a lot of the quality of different proposals is different, and the community is used to really good proposals, so they'll look for those things. So I think that's a really great idea. I don't think it should be a stretch goal. It should be really easy to add that kind of guidance into the tool.
Yeah. If like one other thing, if it's like matched with the structure fields, and this is what I mean, is that you have like a field for everything, like what you just said, that the KPI process has its own field. then all these proposals kind of look similar, and we as CAs and as voters can actually have the same mindset of when we're reading. Some people, like, it's totally true. You read a technical documents and you don't know anything about budget or the breakdowns or the prices for the developers. You just want to skip that. And if it's always in the same place with cohesively, like with something else, then you have much easier time to digest or skip the format of proposals.
Yeah, exactly. And then later on through APIs or whatever, you could extract those specific sections across proposals and kind of do some data mining or see how people are doing things or give feedback. I think it would be super useful to break all those out into their own field.
Yep. And third section, planned input out of initiatives to Fund 9 and beyond. Idea management platform upgrades. Has anybody an idea what could that mean? Idea management platform upgrades, because to me it's just a name. And maybe they mentioned something in a meeting, but it doesn't ring a bell to me. And another thing, CA portal. So similar to like a developer portal, there could be like this kind of portal. I think that's great. And although it comes from Fund 9 or whenever it comes, I think it's very valuable. And I think it's strategically like put a bit more ahead, because now as a community, we have time to produce even more this bottom-up guidance and where they can take the gist and the information. And then it feels like more community-driven portal. At least that's my assumption, and the way I feel like that will go. And Catalyst Pioneers program. Opportunities for joint discovery with Catalyst team and the community. CA requirements enchantments. So yeah, so what are CA requirements? I think we kind of went through some. Question. What are CA requirements? Anybody want to open up what are CA requirements currently before we even think about what are enchantments?
Maybe
I'd like to see.
after just before that, it said Catalyst Pioneer program.
Yeah.
Maybe after the Pioneer program, you'll be able, like, you have to go through that before becoming a CA if you're a new CA. Because right now there isn't any requirements. So maybe that's the CA requirement enhancement.
Well,
Right.
okay, good point. So, well, right now the CA requirement is that you have to register 1 week before assessment phase. Maybe they changed. Maybe you can already do it once. If you don't know exactly, then sorry, but I'm gonna say register 1 week before assessment stage. Somehow it rings to me, but if somebody exactly knows that it's not true and you can register a CA just day before the assessment stage begins, then just shout it out. Then obviously you have to have a DScale account.
Yeah, I think it would be, I think you like, yeah, the workshop upon entry into the process, so that there's like large consensus about the focus of what has changed coming into the round, and maybe afterwards a part of maybe this is like future. Yeah, anyway, maybe afterwards a retrospective as well, where you can start with an introduction in each round, and with a retrospective that with all of the CAs, with some, maybe there's some incentivization to be there. Maybe it's not a requirement, but like if IO is going to is like this section, opportunities for joint discovery. Where are those conversations going to happen with large consensus of CAs there to input? Because like, yeah, we're having this meeting on CA process, but this is at least for me, not an experienced CA. I have Catalyst experience, but we need to have the people who are most familiar with the process in those conversations. And I don't really see where, if this is the CA process discussion, where are all the CAs? How are we collecting this at this information at scale? And does that need to be a required part of the process, like a required responsibility for what it means to be a CA?
Good idea. I'm gonna write down attend live session. And some. I also added from takeaway from like do an intro and retrospective surveys. So something that he contributes to the data and the feeling and the current concerns. So that would be also maybe a thing CA should do. And if he doesn't do, then I guess you're not eligible for rewards.
Yeah.
And Chris.
So I like that like whitelisting onboarding way of getting a CAs to kind of have a general consensus almost. I think the Pioneer program's a great way to get people who understand that segment, but I wouldn't say that's could be the only prerequisite to become a CA. Maybe some other ones like having live Zoom or proof of having a community, because a community advisor, it makes sense for them to be able to relay a lot of those messages to the community. So maybe even just proof of being in the Cardano community. Maybe some other piece in the registration process might, maybe even a token that, hey, I've put proposals in, hey, I am active here and there. Maybe some way of onboarding, multiple ways besides for just something so amazing like the Plutus Pioneer, because we'll get people from all over the place and we do want all their input, correct?
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna note down like a register a wallet, and I'm just gonna put into like token-based access. And then we could even think about like community tokens. So at the school or Gimbal Labs or Swarm gives out, hey, you were in here, we see you're a human, and you kind of get the intention what is to be CA. You might be perfect, you might not be perfect, and you might be going to first time, but we can hear and understand that you want to do good, and we just send you that fungible token and NFT into the wallet. You have registered yourself into the idea scale, and then off you go. And you don't have to go to Pioneer program or something, but the community can level you up into the registration process at least. And then you just build your reputation on that. It does mean that then the people have to start knowing what is wallet, but hopefully most of who users in the idea scale have at least some experience. But this means that the platform itself has to be able to ad hoc that ability and able to contribute that. But I put that as a great idea. All right. So we didn't go through all of that. Maybe we just read it through so that the people outside who is looking at the video, and this is how we scale, we just add and contribute with the async data. Opportunities for joint discovery. So CA requirement enchantments, what we just talked about, reputation upgrades, some more cool ideas, what we learned, machine learning algorithms to assist VCA reviews, recommendations for community-driven improvements, community standards and best practices, basically what we try also in the Catalyst school and in these sessions. Select proposals based on expertise, create and share demonstrative examples, assess proposals according to challenge brief, implement CA training programs. And finally, simulations of outcomes with assessment score weighting adjustments. So if we have some kind of listing in the background, and now then we can start do some thinking and like changing the weights and knobs and see what we would like, and then just use that. Thanks for joining for the CA improvement overview and having like and helping me to just make sense of what has been contributed back and forth, and connecting these kinds of ideas through the video and through the live sessions we're having. That's it from me.
Thank you, Tevo. All right.